From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 81. Today's show is brought to you by Casper and Squarespace. My name is Mike Hurley, and I am joined by the Italian stallion, Mr. Federico Viticci.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Federico.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'll explain in one moment why it's just pretty good, because we have an absent colleague today.
Yeah.
There's been a real bout of sickness and stuff in this show over the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the benefits of having a three-person show, is that, if somebody is sick or indisposed in some way, I can step away and then let two of us carry on. So Steven's away this week.
I thought Steven snuck onto the honeymoon with our friend Matt and his wife.
It could be.
He just didn't tell us. He's actually hiding in the closet,
So
Steven.
He has told me that he is unwell. He's actually
Told you.
He's told me. He's actually told me he's at the doctor's as we're recording this right now. But I shared a room with Steven over the last few days. We were out in Dallas for Matt Alexander's wedding, and I feel ever so slightly sick again, just a little bit.
Yeah, but you're not sick. I mean,
No.
the guy is not telling the truth.
Okay. No, I can get on board with that.
We'll question Steven as soon as he comes back.
If
he comes back.
Yeah, you never know
Sure.
what will happen, right?
Mike, let me do the honors here and do the follow-up section of our show.
Right.
So people are asking, Mike, what are your plans for your home server that you want to do? You talked about Plex. You talked about setting up a server in your house with a Mac Mini, I think. So what do you want to do?
So this is the thing. There's a couple of things that I would like to do with having this Mac Mini home server. So primarily, I want to set up Plex on it. And this is because I know many people that use Plex and love Plex. And one of the things is that we're having an issue with is the speed, the download speed in my home means that we can't necessarily get all the shows that we want to get, but we could stream them from other people's Plex libraries. And when I say shows, I mean home movies, of course.
Yes.
But we would be able to stream them from family and friends, their servers, right? Is my understanding of how Plex works. So that would help with us trying to get all of the home movies and videos that we've been trying to get, because it's difficult for us to download them. So that's one thing. So I want to set up Plex for that sort of stuff. And just to maybe have somewhere where I can put all of this media. Because I have a bunch of movies and stuff, but I just want to have them somewhere. I have a question for you. You use Plex?
Not really.
Okay. Because I wonder if on the iOS app, you can download locally from Plex. That would be cool. If you
from
could do that.
what I remember, you should be able to download things locally, like an offline cache.
Yeah, see, that would be good. I would like that, because then when I go on trips and stuff, I could just download from my own server to the iPad. So stuff like that, right? Like I want somewhere where I can put movies and TV shows, so I'll have it on a machine that's doing whatever it's doing. Dave in the chat room, thank you, Dave, told me that you can do that. You can download with the app. So I want to do that kind of thing. I maybe want to have something that's set up to do BitTorrent that we can just leave on to do that stuff when we're sleeping.
To download the home movies.
To download the home movies and
Yeah.
legal, what is it? Not Creative Commons. What is it? Stuff that's out of copyright. I can't remember the term,
Mike, downloading home movies from strangers sounds quite dirty.
Oh no, friends movies. Like your home movies and Steven's home movies. It's all above board here.
I didn't know Steven was into that stuff, but okay.
I'm getting out of this conversation. So BitTorrent for something, and then maybe just in general, public domain. Dave, you're really helping me out here today. Public domain movies is the other thing that I'm looking for. Like all the out of copyright stuff. And also maybe having some kind of network attached storage. If I just have some big files, so I've got somewhere to put them, so I can just throw them onto the Mac Mini. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking of. This is some of the stuff that jumps to mind. And I wonder if you, Federico, have anything else that you think I could be missing from this setup.
I don't know. So what I'm doing with my Synology is torrents I don't use Plex, but I use DS Video, which is basically the same thing. It's called Video Station. Lets you watch, home movies, that kind of stuff. Maybe you should consider, Myke. I don't know if you have albums or, music that is not available on streaming services. You could also put them on Plex and listen to those. What I also do is I have basically a second tier backup of my Google Drive and Dropbox. So anything I save to Dropbox also goes to my Synology. Just because I have the enough storage and it's good. It's good enough to have another copy. I know people when they set up, maybe this is a little more advanced, but when they do. Usually Mac Minis with OS X server, some people like to run their own like calendar servers or mail servers. That's a little too much, I feel like, especially when you use Google Apps. You don't really need to to do the kind of do it on your own kind of thing. I feel like that's basically it, Myke. Just consider maybe music and another layer of backups. That's what I would say.
Yeah, backups is a good thing. So basically, part of it for me is having some of the advantages of having a Mac which is on all of the time, because I don't like to leave my iMac on 24/7. I know that there's not a lot wrong with doing that. They don't draw a lot of power, but there's just something about it. I just don't want this machine on all the time, because then it means that like my USB pre, my audio stuff is always on as well. And I just don't like the idea of that. I want them sometimes to just be turned off, not drawing power, not cycling or anything like that.
What about automation with Hazel? To automate things that you cannot automate on iOS.
Yeah, I could do that. I tell you one thing that has been that I've realized recently is I set up Hazel rules based on some stuff that you had written before to organize my photos in Dropbox folders.
Nice.
But I realized a couple of days ago that is happening. Those rules exist on my MacBook, and I'd forgotten that.
So basically, when you open your MacBook, it organizes photos. Yep. But when you don't, it doesn't.
Exactly. So I realized the other day that I haven't had any photos organized in like a month, because I very rarely use the MacBook.
Well, that's a use for a Mac that's always on.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I would move the rules to there and have it do it there, because that Mac is just always on doing whatever it's doing, and it can do that stuff when I'm doing other things and it's using a different Wi-Fi network. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking of. I don't know when I'm going to set this up, but it is going to happen, mainly because about every 2 days, Adina bugs me about it because she really wants Plex set up. So it's going to happen. It's because it's not just me that wants it to be done.
You know what you should do? You should do the Myke version of Steven's crazy hobby. You should store versions of iOS on the server.
Yeah, I could do that.
When an update comes out, you just download like 41 files for each device. You archive them on the server. Then you buy like a 2 terabyte SSD that's gonna cost you like $3,000. But you can have you can. Oh, I think they are.
Oh, did you say SSD?
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, they probably are.
You can have a pretty sweet archive, Myke.
I will look into that.
I'm sure you will. We have a listener comment.
Yeah,
Michael.
This has been dropped into our document by our absent co-host, and there's no name attached to this. So I'm just going to refer to this person as anonymous listener wrote in. And this is about Apple's software issues being a potential QA problem. So I'll just read this and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So this person says, I get the feeling that Apple lacks the imagination to test much beyond the obvious happy paths. iTunes freaks out for me when it's taken offline and pops up new error dialogues scores of times if left unattended overnight. My bet is that Apple is not testing extensively on machines, say, without an SSD, without an internet connection, and no iTunes music all at once. Like, that is like a potential unhappy path. Like, if you had all of those three things occurring together, are they testing to see what would happen there? I constantly get errors when I take my iMac offline and have strange UI issues that I assume happen because of my late 2013 iMac struggling with its spinning platter hard drive. So this person is kind of outlining here some things that they have, some issues that they have when they have multiple weird things happening at once, or because they have a machine that's slightly out of date. And my question to you, Federico, is it reasonable to think that Apple should be testing their software on so many different setups with lots of different issues to see what happens?
I mean, isn't that what QA stands for?
Sure.
To test exactly those unusual scenarios. And I mean, they're not so unusual. You know, the internet is down, so how does the app behave? I mean, that's not too crazy to think about. And plus, 2013 is not so old. I mean, we're not talking about it, 2006 MacBook. We're talking just, not even 3 years ago. I think it's reasonable to expect that Apple should test these, unhappy paths, to...
Yeah. Like, I've experienced this myself, especially with Apple Music.
Yeah.
Like, if the internet connection is down, iTunes goes crazy because it can't authenticate with Apple Music. Yeah. And I have to sometimes quit the app to stop it from bugging me, So there are... I feel like these things are there, and I am inclined to agree with you that with a company of their size, with admittedly really as few product lines as they have, this is the sort of stuff that they should be testing. And I expect that they are, to an extent. But if these things are genuine and they happen to a lot of people, then, I mean, I feel like we don't stop talking about this software quality thing. But it's the current meme, right? It is the thing. And this is a good example, another good example, of where these things start to break down.
I feel like, just like app review, we had a story on the site
which is
last
a great
week.
article that people should read if they haven't already. Graham did an incredible job with that.
No, thank you. He's been working on it real hard, and it's been quite the research, effort. Just like app review, I feel like if Apple was a little more open about, this is actually what goes on. We have this many people working on app review, or we have this many people working on QA, and there are different teams. Someone does iTunes, and there's like 50 people do Finder. Just have a little more details would maybe alleviate a lot of these questions and a lot of these concerns from Mac and iOS users. Because right now, app review, Apple QA, it's this black box, and no one knows what's going on inside of it.
It's easy to assume there's 3 people because you don't know that there's any.
Exactly. I mean, the counterpoint would be, well, if Apple ever said, look, we have 50 people working on QA for iTunes, then when people come across a problem or a bug in iTunes, people would be like, 50 people and they don't catch this. So there's definitely, a counterpoint to be made. But the fact that we have little to no details about app review and QA, as the result of these two parts of Apple being the ones where people speculate the most about. I generally believe that these problems that anonymous listener wrote in, those should be definitely tested. And other instances of similar problems, like offline with Apple Music, or even you should try to be offline with some iOS extensions, or offline with document providers. See what happens. It's not pretty most of the time. So maybe there's not enough people. Maybe they didn't test these scenarios. We don't know because we have no details, only our speculation. So again, let's hope it gets better.
I saw something pretty interesting on Mac Rumors yesterday.
Yeah.
It's an app called FlexBright.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I saw that too.
This application kind of came out, I think, over the weekend. And basically, FlexBright is a third-party application that produces some of the effects that Night Shift does on 9.3.
Yeah, only it's basically ugly, and the effects are not as pretty as Night Shift. I bought the app last night.
So did I, and it is a UI nightmare.
It's like
horrific.
someone, through the controls all
It
over
looks
the
like
screen.
UIKit threw up, right?
Yes.
Like there's just
It's
UIKit buttons everywhere. It barely makes any sense. Like the opening screens are horrific. Like they've taken some screenshots and they're all like distorted. Like it is
it's terrible.
real ugly app. But it works. Though.
But it does work. Yes, it can set the screen, so not just inside the app, but in any app on the home screen, other third-party apps. It can change the colors of the screen to be essentially more yellow, and if you switch to warmer colors, so the idea is similar to Flux and Night Shift. There's a slider, you can move from cool to warm colors, and if you go all the way up to the warmest setting, it's actually quite green, not even yellow.
I don't think they really suggest that you do that so much, right? That they make suggestions in the same way that Flux does, but it gives more. So, for example, Flux on my Mac, the colors towards the end of the evening get warmer and warmer. That doesn't happen with Night Shift.
No.
And so sometimes I'm editing late or something, and my Mac feels more comfortable to my eyes than Night Shift does. So FlexBright will give you some of that. Like it will go warmer and warmer and warmer, right? Like as the day progresses. And the way that it does it, it's quite interesting. So it sends you a notification to alert you to either take some eye exercises, which I thought was kind of cool, because it's saying, to try and prevent eye strain. And then we'll suggest to you to change your brightness, or it will do it automatically when you open the application. And then, as you say, it works throughout the OS then. Now, MacRumors is saying that basically the way that this has been done is there's no private API. The FlexBright developers are taking advantage of a native Objective-C library that filters the blue light from the iOS screen. And MacRumors also suggests quite strongly that FlexBright and Apple work together on this.
Yeah, that was strange.
I've been thinking about this. What I think this means is they worked closely with App Review.
Could be.
I don't think that FlexBright and Apple have a business partnership.
I don't think that. It just feels odd to me that to say that they're not using private APIs. And I say that not necessarily because of the brightness and the colors, but because of the dark mode. Have you seen that?
Yeah, but that's just
that's the inverted
accessibility
colors
setting.
That's an accessibility setting, but I don't recall of third-party apps being able to change that accessibility setting at a system-wide level.
Right, but that might be what this native Objective-C library is. That might be in there.
But what's the name of? I mean, it's the first time I see apps, not using private APIs being able to do this.
But who's ever tried?
On the App Store, no one, because it's a private API. Well, Flux tried, but it was a side-loading thing.
Is it private though? Is it I don't know. Could it be just part of this Objective-C library?
No. It's an implementation detail, really. Right. The key discussion is: did Apple really work with this company to have a third-party brightness changing tool?
So I think that this went through App Review and it got bumped up, and they worked with somebody a little bit higher than the regular reviewer to let this through. That's how I look at this. Because you could say quite easily, "Oh, we worked with Apple," but it's not like you worked with the marketing and engineering teams to develop an application. It's like you made this app, and then Apple kind of helped massage it with you, like saying, for example, no, you can't do this automatically. You have to do it by notification. That's what I think's happened here.
Why do you think they did that?
I think that Apple has allowed this app because it will allow people that can't get 9.3 to take advantage of something that Apple is saying should be in all phones.
No, it's not just 9.3. It's people who can get iOS 9.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So anybody who can't get 9.3, because they can't get iOS 9.
Let me check this out. So what's the system requirement for FlexBright? Let's see if it supports iOS 8.
So from the Mac Rumors article suggests that it will be able to. FlexBright is available on devices running iOS 7 or iOS 8.
Okay, yeah, the App Store says the same thing.
So that would be my thinking, is that they're allowing this, maybe helping this come to the store, right, in the way they need to do this. So Apple have something in the store which is available for people that can't get night shift, because now this is a thing that Apple was saying for health reasons, or whatever, whatever reasons they're kind of saying. They're being kind of loose about the wording, but we'll say for health reasons that your device should do this. But if a device can't do this because it can't get iOS 9, does that mean that those people shouldn't benefit from the health?
Yeah,
aspect?
that makes sense to me.
That's my thinking. And now I'm frustrated in the Mac Rumors article, and I'm sure many articles that will be written, the kind of implied criticism by saying that Flux was was demanded to be pulled away, was not allowed, as they said in this article. I don't think that Apple necessarily had a problem with the functionality. I think Apple didn't like the fact that they were promoting people sideloading applications onto their devices.
Yeah, that got on their nerves, I think.
And we have a story, just in a little bit, which suggests why this sort of stuff can be so messy. Like that transmission malware, right? Because bad things can happen if you're just putting apps on your device that go through the App Store, right? It can happen. And I think that was the problem. I would dare to say that maybe if Flux... I don't know if they ever tried to submit this to the App Store. But maybe they could have been this person instead of FlexBright. I don't know.
You know what? What's strange to me? If this company really worked with Apple to cooperate and get the app on the App Store, why is the interface so ugly?
So this is why I think when they say work with Apple, they work with App Review.
If you go to the website for FlexBright, there's a download button at the top, and it says download from Apple Store.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. They did not work with this company in a partnership sense.
No.
That did not happen, because then this wouldn't look like this. I feel that they just worked with App Review.
Must be, like a couple of guys at App Review. They talk to a manager maybe. They're like, there's this company, they want to make this tool for brightness, and we're going to release Night Shift. Do we want to, allow them to be on the store so people with iOS 7 and iOS 8 can also have the same feature? And someone must have been like, yeah, whatever, sounds like a good idea. No big deal. Just don't let them automatically change the brightness, because otherwise, the other developers will get real mad about it. So let them use notifications and whatever. You can also use 3D Touch, I think, as a shortcut, by the way. But still, it doesn't feel like an official, like Apple works with the...
No, I really, really do not think that is the case here.
It's not the research kit type of official partnership with, institutions and organizations to have native iOS apps. It's like a company goes to App Review and it's like, look, we want to make this tool. Can we release it on the App Store? And it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. Just don't do X and X, Yep.
So
could be.
I really think that they want to use these libraries, which usually we don't let people use. They're going to change the colors of the screen. Is this okay? And they're like, well, we have Night Shift now. Blah, blah. And that's how I assume it went through, right? And it just went up a few levels. Maybe it went to somebody who works under Phil Schiller, and they were like, yeah, okay, we'll let this through.
Yeah.
They did not have a part. I cannot believe that they would have done that, because this thing is all kinds of ugly. And I just can't imagine that's the case. I mean, because that, it kind of, whether it's should or it shouldn't, that's not really an App Review rule. Is your app ugly? Because...
Well, ugly, not ugly.
Right? Because the thing is, this app doesn't look nice, but it's not terrible. I've used apps that look worse than this.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's not pixel perfect design.
No.
But, I've just had a scan over the Flux stuff, and there doesn't appear to be, from what I can see, any kind of hint towards the fact that they ever tried to work with Apple directly?
Yeah, I don't know either if they ever tried to submit Flex to the App Store. We should look on the forums. I think there's community forums for Flex.
Yeah, if anybody knows that, send it in, because I'd like to address that next week if that's the case. But my feeling is if they didn't, then, what are you going to do?
Yeah, also, a clarification. FlexBright tells you that there's a dark mode, but it's not really a dark mode. I mean, it gets, it turns the screen black.
It just inverts the colors.
It inverts the colors.
Yeah.
So when people like me and you, when we talk about having a dark mode on iOS, what we actually want is a dark interface, but
like
not
how Tweetbot works, or
Yes.
how OmniFocus works, where it just changes the colors of the interface as opposed to inverting the colors.
It doesn't invert the colors of icons and images,
Yeah. So it's the negatives, right?
Yes,
So it looks like a
This is a
negative.
negative effect of, it's the same setting of inaccessibility, and on OS X, I think there's the same option. This is not a system dark mode the way that we envision it.
No. Or want.
Or
which
what?
there should be, in my opinion.
We'll talk about it, Myke.
All right, let's take a break. This week's episode is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses that you're able to get yourself for a fraction of the price that you'll be used to paying in stores. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms by selling directly to you and then passing those savings along. Casper mattresses are resilient, and they provide long-lasting, supportive comfort. They're one-of-a-kind mattresses that Casper have created. It is a new hybrid mattress that combines premium latex foam and memory foam. It has just the right sink, just the right bounce. These two technologies come together to give you better nights and brighter days. It is an obsessively engineered mattress that they have created at a shockingly fair price, which stays fair because they sell direct. Usually, mattresses that you'll find in stores cost well over $1,500. I know that when I paid for a mattress here in the UK, it was about that amount of money as well. Casper mattresses cost between $500 for a twin-size mattress, $750 for a full-size mattress, $850 for queen, and $950 for king. And all Casper mattresses are made in America. These prices they're just fantastic. Casper understands the idea that buying a mattress online is quite an interesting thing, because in our minds we're used to going into these stores and you sit on the mattress and you're like, oh, I know that this is good. Although when you think about it, really, all you're doing is kind of just sitting on the mattress in your regular clothing with a bunch of people around you for 5 minutes. It's kind of weird. So Casper tackles both of these things in a really great way. When you buy a Casper mattress, they will ship it to you for free in a lovely little box. You open it up, it's kind of magical. You sleep on it, and you know if it's right for you by sleeping on it. And you get 100 days to make your decision. If within that 100-day period you don't like your Casper mattress, you can return it for free. They'll come and pick it up. So you get to actually sleep on this mattress for 100 days to check that it's right for you. So a really great deal. Listeners of this show can get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/connected and using the code connected at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Please see the site for details. Thank you so much to Casper for supporting this show and Relay FM. Okay, so Mr. Federico Fetici, one of your favorite applications, got a little update.
Yes.
So it's workflow.
Yes.
Can you detail what you like about this new update?
So yesterday, version 1.4.4 of Workflow was released on the App Store, and it comes with two, at least for me, big changes. The first one is a new action to overlay an image on top of another image. And the reason why I've been looking forward to this is in some of my reviews and articles on Mac Stories, I want to have iOS screenshots, so either iPhone or iPad screenshots, inside those pretty device frames that Apple provides you for free from the marketing assets on the web.
All right.
And the way that I used to generate these images a few months ago used to be on my Mac. I would just use, Acorn to put screenshots inside of these frames.
There are web services as well that
Yeah.
I've used. I can't remember them. But
Yeah, there's some of them I don't like them just because you can tell those are super fake or like they're used by a ton of people. So there's services with like pretty backgrounds like fancy desks, or like there's a fake hand with an iPhone and a coffee on the other side. I don't like those because to me it looks fake.
Yeah, no, I get it. Sometimes, I mean, I agree with you. Just face on, screenshot on device, white background, like you do. That's what I like as well.
Yeah, I like to be simple in that regard.
Yeah, put the focus on the app.
Yeah, lately I've been using Pixelmator on iOS to do the same,
Sure.
or I've been using Long Screen, which is this screenshot utility for iOS that can put your screenshot inside of these frames. The reason why I want to automate the process is I want more control, and I want to mix and match iPhone and iPad screenshots. I want to control the alignment of those screenshots. So with the new overlay action, you can take an image to use as the background, which in my case is the iPhone 6s Plus frame or the iPad Pro frame, and you can put an image on top of that image, and the result is a JPEG that you can save to the photo library, or you can share with extensions. In my case, I save it to the Photos app, and I later upload it to my CDN. So this is super convenient. You can automate anything about the process. You can control the size. You can control where the file comes from. In my example, I store the assets in iCloud Drive just because it's faster than fetching the file from Dropbox, because it runs natively on iOS all the time. So that's super convenient. It's gonna be real useful when I put together longer reviews or stories for the website.
All right, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
How do you how do you position them?
Oh well. Workflow has an option to paste the image at the center of the background image. And the way I did this is I cut the frames precisely so that I knew the black portion of the screen would be where the image would be pasted onto. It's just a simple calculation with the pixels. And I had a little bit of trouble with the PSD for the iPad Pro, so I asked my girlfriend Sylvia to take care of that for me, and she centered the iPad frame so that the workflow would be image would be pasted, in the right position.
Right.
It's just a toggle that you say I want to overlay in the center, and workflow takes care of everything for you.
So you just need to make sure that you have the assets.
Yes.
That will allow that alignment.
Yes.
So I guess, can you lay images next to each other as well?
No, there's a separate action for that.
Nice.
Yeah, there's combine images, which I use at the end of the workflow. So after I paste, each screenshot into the device it belongs to, because I do calculation to see what's the resolution here. Do I need to paste on inside of an iPad or inside of an iPhone? Is it portrait or landscape? At the end, each of these iPhones and iPads is joined with a combined image action.
So it does it automatically. All you do is go to the screenshot and say, put it into a frame, and it works it out on its own and puts it into the correct frame for you.
Yes.
Federico.
I know yesterday I got a lot of people that were very happy on Twitter. Someone sent me a gif of Jesus as a thank you.
I mean, sure. That's a big thank you. It's about as big a thank you as you can get, I think.
There's also another action, Mike. It lets you convert. This is quite nerdy. It lets you convert HTML back to Markdown. So usually you hear about people converting Markdown to HTML. But what I
kind of glossed over this in the review in the release notes. And it's like, I have loads of apps that can do this, but I didn't realize it's the other way around.
This is the other way around. So you have HTML and you want to clean it up, but turn it into Markdown and plain text. The reason why I need to do this, when I'm using Safari on my iPad usually, and I want to link to someone else's article on Mac Stories, I want to quote some text from their website. Mm-hmm. If you only use copy and paste, with the iOS copy menu, you lose all of the formatting. And of course, iOS doesn't have any, rich text to Markdown conversion tool.
Can I just take a break one moment there,
sure,
and just say how ridiculous this is?
I know. The copy and paste menu needs a serious overhaul in general.
I'll tell you what, let's take a... carry on. We'll take a beat about that in a moment.
Okay. So with this workflow, I can select some text, run the workflow. It finds the rich text in Safari, turns the rich text to HTML. That's a built-in feature of workflow. And then the HTML is converted to Markdown. So when I'm in drafts or editorial, wink, wink, Myke, editorial, I can go on without having to see HTML. But when the link post will be published, there will be the original formatting from the source, from the website. So it's a nice way to not lose any formatting when quoting other people. It retains, italic, bold, links, whatever. I just want to make sure that when I link to someone, the quote that I include on Mac Stories as the original version of their text.
That's real smart. How do you get the HTML?
Basically, workflow gets a Safari selection. That Safari selection is HTML.
Okay.
So workflow tells you it's rich text. The action is actually called convert rich text to Markdown, not convert HTML to Markdown. But it's basically the same thing, yeah.
So it goes in and grabs the HTML on its own.
Yeah.
So you just select a block of text. Yeah,
in Safari or any other, Safari View Controller, whatever. Or you can give it rich text from other apps, The underlying feature that does this is based upon, I don't think it's a straight adaptation. It's based upon Aaron Swartz's excellent HTML to text, which came out about a decade ago, I think. I used to run HTML to text all the time in Pythonista. Super, super handy.
After last week's episode, I got quite a bit of criticism in a few places from people who were saying to me, why do you want all these features for iOS? Like, I was saying like using 3 apps at once when OS X does it all, right? A lot of people are saying that to me. It's like, you basically want to use OS X. Why don't you just use OS X? Why are you forcing yourself to use iOS? And this is exactly it. So I know that Automator exists. I know that AppleScript exists. I can't do these things. I can't do them. I don't understand how to do them. I don't know how to code anything. I don't get it, right? And any scripts that I've found, I'm always a little bit scared to run them if I don't know where they've come from, because they could do anything to my Mac because it's so open for this sort of stuff, right? Like I remember once when we mentioned Matt, he had a wedding. There was one time when Matt wrote a script for himself to automate his photos and instead deleted basically everything on his hard drive. Right? That's the sort of stuff that can go horrifically wrong.
I remember that.
Yeah. With workflow, I am able to build these workflows on my own. I've done it because the UI is really simple and it explains everything to you. But other than that, I can just go and get your workflow and feel pretty confident in knowing what's going on because the way it displays everything to you is nice and clear. But no matter what it does, it can't really do anything extremely destructive.
Yeah, and you have to give it permission if you want to delete stuff.
Exactly. And so basically what I'm getting at is this application exists for iOS and it's amazing. There is nothing exactly like this on OS X. There are things that do what it does. There are things that are more powerful. But to a user like me and to many other people like me, this is where the innovation is happening. This is where the apps are happening, and it's on iOS. Like the thing that you're talking about with the screenshots, I could now do this really easily, but I wouldn't be able to do it so easily on OS X anymore. So this is what I'm talking about with like my desire to do more and more of my stuff on iOS, because exciting things are happening there, new things are happening there, and they're in a way that makes sense to me more than some of the stuff that's on OS X. So I just wanted to take that slight aside as a kind of a follow-up on last week.
Yeah, I agree with you. When just because you're able to do more or more powerful things on a Mac or a PC even, it doesn't mean that people who don't want to use those computers shouldn't have access to the same features. Meaning, if some people can do this automation in a better way on a Mac, with Keyboard Maestro or with Python, doesn't mean that people who want to use iOS are stupid or that shouldn't have access to the same automation. It's just in a different package. It's more user-friendly. It's different.
And if you can do it and you can do things more powerfully and easier on the Mac, then you should.
Yes.
And you should be happy about that.
Yes.
But I can't. And I don't want to take the time to learn. When I'm able to do these things on iOS, easier for me. That's what it is. All right, let's move on because now we've got a ton of other stuff. So Patrick in the chat room sent us a note to a forum post on the Flux forums. And this is from Lorna from the Flux team. And what it says is, we'd love to offer Flux in the official App Store, but we need some help from Apple. If you want to send them a nice note telling them how Flux has helped you and you'd like to see Flux in the official App Store, you can submit feedback. This is kind of like what they wrote in their blog post.
Yes, this is what I remember from the forums. Yeah.
But again, what this suggests is we need affirmative action as opposed to we submitted it and they rejected it. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, what this suggests is like they pulled us, help us get in there, but basically this doesn't say to me that they ever tried to submit it in the first place. They maybe did, but if this is all that there is about it, then it's kind of suggesting that they want help now they got kind of the ban hammer.
Yeah.
So there you go. Right, rich text on iOS.
What do you want to know, Mike?
Well, I just want to moan about it.
Okay.
I think this is one of the biggest failings of iOS. I think it's ridiculous that rich text cannot be stored from application to application on the clipboard. The fact that I can have a bulleted list in one app and I copy the bulleted list and I paste it in another app and then I've got asterisks instead. When again on the Mac, that is no problem. It retains the bullets. Like if on the Mac I'm copying from Notes on OS X to a Google Doc, it will keep the bullets. If I do it on iOS, it puts asterisks in. Another one I do is I keep spreadsheets of things that I need to send to people. On OS X, if I copy the spreadsheet, paste it into my email client, it retains the table, right? If I do that on iOS, it's just like, here's just a bunch of text, like you just go crazy. This is the copying and pasting of rich text is so fundamental. I can't believe that it's not part of iOS. It makes no sense to me.
I'm going to tell you why that's the case, Mike. So I know for a fact, and I'm pretty sure it's still the case, that Apple itself uses different frameworks for rich text across Mail, across Notes, across Pages. Most of the time, the problems that you see stem from the fact that Apple themselves, they don't have a unified rich text framework on iOS. So I'm pretty sure that's still the case, at least with the Notes app. When you copy and paste rich text from Notes and you try to paste the same text into Mail, you lose the formatting. One of my wishes for the next version of iOS is to have a brand new rich text framework. Because I realized that rich text is not pretty. For a long time, it caused, compatibility problems with Word files, page files. But Apple now is contributing to this long-standing, stigma against rich text by not making proper rich text support on iOS, a system feature, It's just ridiculous that, what's it, like 8 years into iOS, maybe 9 years, we still don't have a good way to copy and paste rich text. Maybe iOS 10, Mike, will be the solution.
I really hope that is what happens. I just feel like this is something that should have been fixed so long ago. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be that fancy. When you copy some text from a note, and the text you copy also contains, formatting, lists, and maybe one of those link previews that you get with the new Notes app. Mm-hmm. And you paste into Mail. It doesn't have to be, the same link preview. It doesn't have to be that fancy. You can just paste it as a normal link. Or we could also mention the fact, Mike, that generating plain rich text, not just copying, but also making
oh gosh, yeah,
making rich text. So when you want to send an email message and you want to insert a link to a web page, you cannot do like you do in any Mac app. You select some text and you say link.
Yeah.
You have to paste it as a hyperlink, separately. It's just awful.
And, on an iPhone, trying to get to bold controls and italics, you're swiping through menus.
Yes.
This is fundamental stuff. This is something that needs to be rethought. And there you go. For the people that love OS X, you now have a complaint from me about iOS. So let's go back to OS X again. There's an app called Transmission, which is a BitTorrent app, I believe, used for downloading home movies.
Yeah. It's I've been using it for like 5 years for home movies of all kinds. Yeah.
There has been an issue. Could you explain what's happened here?
So I think Saturday there was a notice on the Transmission website and in the Transmission updater for the Mac app that a build version 2.9 of Transmission for OS X was compromised, and it was planting malware on the file system on the Mac. And that malware was actually ransomware, which is a new type of infection that basically usually after a few days, encrypts the contents of your drive, and it puts up a dialog on the screen asking you to pay, so, like a ransom, asking you to pay to unlock the files. Usually this is a scam, so you send these people money, and they either clone your credit card or they take the money, but of course they never unlock your computer. And it's a very nasty type of malware. We have the same problem in Italy. My father is a journalist, and he was telling me about the local police office sent out a notice to the press in my hometown about this new type of malware going around. And he was like, "Did you know about this?" I mean, yeah. And I told him, "Yeah." And he was like, "What's that about ransom?" So I explained to my father, because he's not real tech savvy.
Yeah.
I explained to him. So it's definitely one of the new trends among bad people. Now the Transmission case is quite peculiar, because the Transmission, of course, the app is not available on the Mac App Store because Apple doesn't allow torrent clients to be releasing there. But it was using Gatekeeper, which is Apple's security measure on OS X, which the user can launch a Mac app downloaded from outside of the Mac App Store by granting permission to use that app through Gatekeeper, which is a certificate-based mechanism that authenticates the usage of that app. Apple, as soon as it was informed of the security breach and the malware infection with that Transmission build, revoked the Gatekeeper certificate from that from that build, so people were no longer able to download the app. But according to the Transmission developers, over 6,000 downloads were made through the website to download an infected version of Transmission. And it's not clear if anyone came across the ransom notice yesterday, because the 2 or 3 day notice was due to expire on Monday, I think. So Apple rushed immediately to revoke the certificate, and the Transmission folks replaced the corrupt build on their server with an updated version without the malware. What's quite scary is two things. One, Gatekeeper is convenient, so Apple has a kill switch for this type of bad stuff that can happen outside of the Mac App Store. But of course, it only works after the fact.
It's retroactive.
When Apple finds out.
It's not even really retroactive, is it? It doesn't fix anything. It's like a Band-Aid. Prevents
from happening again. Apple only finds out after the fact. Even if they keep a close eye, on Twitter or social media or, developer websites, they only find out after X number of people have come across the problem. And the second question, which is actually quite scary, is how did this happen?
Yeah.
So the transmission developers, they released this new version of transmission for Mac, I believe after 2 years of the last update. It actually made the news when transmission was updated. I saw a bunch of articles on 9to5Mac and I think Mac Rumors, because, transmission is super popular and it didn't get an update for a couple of years. So transmission was back and people were talking about it. And a week later, transmission is infected, which is, a weird coincidence.
Were there any significant features added to this update?
No, it was like OS X El Capitan support, a bunch of fixes, not anything groundbreaking. The developer said to Reuters, I think yesterday, that it was a hack to their server. The transmission build from the transmission, company was replaced with another build with another gatekeeper certificate, and Apple revoked that gatekeeper certificate, not the one.
That is extremely good timing, right?
Yeah.
The app hasn't been updated in 2 years.
A lot of people rush to download transmission again.
They're getting ready to do another update, and just before that update goes out, because you assume that this version was feature complete, so just before the update goes out, it's replaced with a version that has all of the features in it, right? It is that version, including a new gatekeeper certificate and malware.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that we have a conspiracy theory on our hands here, but it feels like maybe somebody knew, right? Like, it's not that transmission are attempting to, like the company or the people in charge there are attempting to install this ransomware, but maybe a friend of someone who works there, or you know what I mean? Like, this is too much of a coincidence for it to happen just before an update goes out after 2 years of no updates.
Yeah, I mean,
it's weird.
Yes, it is. One thought for you, Myke.
Mm-hmm.
This wouldn't have happened on the Mac App Store.
No.
But the Mac App Store...
Well, can we say that for sure? I don't know.
Well, with sandboxing, these apps cannot go and, insert files across the file system.
Yeah, so even if the malware got in there, let's say it happened, right? Let's just say they didn't get noticed. It couldn't do anything. It couldn't go out into the system and delete the files, right?
Yeah, I couldn't physically access portions.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't want to just like flat out say, would be fine, because I wasn't 100% sure.
That's the reason why you don't have malware on the iOS App Store. And when you do, it's usually based on another type of hack, such as a compromised version of Xcode, like it happened in China a few months ago. This wouldn't have happened on the Mac App Store, but the Mac App Store prohibits developers from, submitting torrent clients. I feel like there's a discussion here to be made about, opening up the Mac App Store to more types of applications. Because, people with Macs download apps from the web. And the reason why they do is in large part because Apple doesn't want those apps on the Mac App Store. Because if the Mac App Store was, the place where you go for all types of software, I believe that those wouldn't be 6,000 downloads, but they would be maybe, like a couple of thousands. Way, way, way less. And this is partly on Apple's, just because they still force people to go to the web and to download software that can do nasty things to your file system. This is the result. Sometimes, you can put up all the security measures you want. You can use Gatekeeper. You can advise people to go to the Mac App Store. But if I want to download a torrent client, or if I want to download an Adobe app and I download it from the web, and that app has access to my entire file system, well, this is what happens. When there's a problem, when there's a hack, there's a, something gets compromised, this is the result.
There's also this weird kind of irony about all of this that it's a BitTorrent client. That can't be overlooked here, right? Like, there is like a weird irony of illegal activity based on more illegal activity.
I mean, we can talk about piracy.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I was talking at the top of the show about BitTorrent, and I don't have a moral stance on piracy so much.
Well, let me tell you this, Mike. And I don't want to get into the legal or moral sides of this argument, but if there was a way that studios came together and they would be like, look, you give us 20 euros a month or 30 euros a month, and you can stream any TV show or any movie as soon as it goes out in the United States of America, and no matter where you live, you pay us. I would pay so hard,
right, so
Mike.
I pay for Netflix, I pay for Amazon Prime.
But the content is all different.
There. Exactly. And I'll give you an example of my, kind of my piracy thinking and how I use piracy if I ever do. I wanted to watch Seinfeld. I looked on all the streaming services. I looked on iTunes. You cannot buy Seinfeld digitally in the United Kingdom. It is not sold. You have to watch it on DVD or Blu-ray. And I don't want to do that, because the devices I like to watch stuff on don't have a DVD or Blu-ray attached to them. There's no player attached to the device. So, the only way for us to get it in the format that we wanted it in was to pirate it. I am now watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's one of the creators, Larry David of Seinfeld, went to make Curb. And I am paying £15 a season on iTunes. I've bought 4 seasons. Because it's on iTunes. I will always pay. I will always pay if I can. Sometimes I can't. And that's when I personally go to the piracy route. If I was to do that. I mean, for home movies, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Do you get what I mean? I feel like we're in the same boat on this.
Yes.
I will pay. I'm paying for Netflix right now because I'm watching House of Cards. Because I can get it at the same time. It's the same with Breaking Bad when they did that, right? I will give money if you will just let me get the content. But there has to be that two-way street, and sometimes it doesn't work. Like with Seinfeld. Seinfeld is a 90s TV show, and I, for some reason, cannot buy it digitally in the United Kingdom. It doesn't make any sense. It just makes no sense to me. So I had to find it via other means.
Yeah, I genuinely believe if you want to cut piracy in half, worldwide release and streaming everywhere.
Well,
that's
look what
the
happened
future.
to Napster when the iTunes Music Store came into existence.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But you cannot say to Australian people, well, we'll give you this TV show only in 6 months.
When everybody's already seen it.
In today's world, it's just unacceptable to think that people in America get a TV show in English before anyone else.
I'm a fan of the Mythbusters, right? And they're currently in their final season. And in the UK, I'm only halfway through the season, and I'm buying it on Amazon. Why can't I watch it at the same time? A couple of days ago was the finale, so I had to mute a bunch of people so I didn't, because it's not like the show can be spoiled, right? Because it's not, but I just didn't want to see anything about it because I won't get to see it for another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Why can't I see it at the same time?
It doesn't make any sense.
This one is owned by Discovery, and Discovery UK gets it 6 weeks later. What is this? It's the same company. Anyway, back to this BitTorrent thing, right?
Yes.
So this is really weird, and it highlights a bunch of issues. One of the issues is the effectiveness of Gatekeeper, right? Because there is clearly a benefit here in that it doesn't allow for anybody else, but Gatekeeper is not. It's not what the name suggests, because the gate is breached before.
It is a gate, but the people who are inside
it should be called drawbridge, right? Because it comes up maybe a little bit too late after some people have broken into the town.
Yes.
Right? It's not down protecting people,
Basically, the milk that has been spilled stays on the ground, stays on the floor. It prevents new milk from being spilled. That's how it works. And again, it's an after the fact kind of solution. Now, what happens to those 6,000 downloads? We don't know. Are any Mac users seeing the ransom dialogue on the screens? We don't know. Does Apple have a solution if you have an affected MacBook? You bring it to the Genius Bar and they fix it for you. We don't know.
Should they even?
Should they? What type of encryption do these hackers use? It's a lot of questions, and there's no solution that I know of. They acted kind of quickly. I mean, 2 days isn't too bad. Still, we don't know how many people.
In a funny way, though, this just further pushes the problems of the Mac App Store.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If you ignore this app, ignore that it is a BitTorrent app, which would never get in the Mac App Store anyway. Let's say it was something else, like an app from Adobe. Well, we had it a couple of weeks ago, right? Where Adobe, like the Creative Cloud update, was deleting files from people's root directory, right?
Yeah.
When it was like deleting the Backblaze files. That wouldn't happen if it was in the App Store, if sandboxing was in effect here. So, to stop this kind of craziness, these apps should all be in the App Store. But the App Store isn't good enough via the standards of the traditional developers. It's like, in a funny way, it just comes back around to being like, well, if the App Store was more inviting, maybe this stuff would happen less.
Let me ask you what some people may see as a crazy question, Myke. Do you believe in the future people shouldn't be able to poke around and play with the file system?
I don't know.
I mean, the way I see it is...
Okay. I think that in future operating systems, like what we have now and what may continue...
Don't be scared, Myke. Go on.
I think that it should be locked down like iOS. That's what I think.
I'm thinking the same thing, actually. If you give someone access to the file system...
You shouldn't take it away.
You shouldn't take it away. Sure. That makes sense. People have always been able to poke around, play with, things on a computer. And, one of the big reasons people like computers is that they can change anything. They can have a command line, they can customize the entire experience. But eventually there's going to be problems. And the moment that you give access to a user to the file system, you also give access to developers. Developers can screw up like Adobe did, or developers can be compromised like Transmission was. And that's going to be, problematic. I personally, this is going to sound like heresy to some people, but I wouldn't mind the future where you have to jailbreak a Mac if you want to poke around and do crazy things. Just because the net benefit of increased security for everyone, provided that Apple comes up with ways to,
Yeah, like this is the other part of this, is like, in the same way that I'm saying this, I feel that there also needs to be better tools
Yes.
in these future OSs to counteract the fact that a lot of this tinkering is taken away.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what this stuff looks like, right? But like, if you're thinking about what the future of operating systems look like, it's that. I mean, security is so important, and iOS is more secure because it was built specifically.
And that's a fact.
Think about it. It's like you just think about these things in a specific way, and they're like, well, third parties are the problem in a lot of instances. Let's restrict them. Right?
Yeah.
And so if you're thinking about what future operating systems look like, Mac OS or Mac OS 10 will not be around in 100 years. It will be something else, right? And I think that that something else will be closer to iOS than OS 10.
I mean, just think about it. What if the future is VR? And in the future you work in VR. Hold on. And you give developers, you give a third-party access to your VR system because, that's the way computers have always been. What if that someone plants a virus in VR and that virus is like a scary monster that creeps up on you and scares you and you have a heart attack and you die? Huh.
That's a real... I mean, I get where you're going,
crazy,
but that's a big stretch.
Is it crazy though? Is it crazy to think
It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. I gotta say. I mean, I get what you're saying. It's a little crazy, but I get it.
I'm just saying. Whenever you, from an ideological point of view, computers should be open, and I get that. It's just when you give people openness, some people screw up badly with that access, and I wouldn't mind a future where you shouldn't be able to plant malware, or you shouldn't be able to, to change files in the file system that can break your computer. I'm not saying that people want to use Macs to plant malware or to break critical files, but they have the option to, right? And that shouldn't be an option. I wouldn't mind a future where everything is more secure. There's still the ability to customize a lot of things. There's better communication between apps, so you can choose to save documents whenever you want. There's better support for exchanging data between apps. But it's just, I look at this transmission story and I'm like, this shouldn't be possible. Why is it that you have to go on a website to download some software and that software puts up a ransom on your screen? I get why the political side of things is like, yes, you should be able to download any type of software from the web, and then if that software has a problem, well, that's your fault. But it shouldn't be this way, It's like selling a car without an airbag to consumers. If you crash your car and you don't have an airbag, well, that's on you. But it shouldn't be that way,
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm just weird. I don't know.
Steven is never going to leave us alone again.
Steven is going to be
aware
upset.
of this, right?
Steven is going to... I know.
Like, there are so many things we've done this week that, like, he will just be screaming.
I've said so many wrong things for a lot of people.
Oh, God.
Don't die.
I'm trying not to. Oh, dear. All right, let's take a break, and then on the other side of this ad, we can maybe upset some more people. This week's episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the simplest way for anyone to create a beautiful landing page, website, or online store. You can start building your own website today at squarespace.com and enter the offer code WORLD at checkout to get 10% off your first purchase. With easy-to-use tools and templates, Squarespace helps you capture everyday detail of what drives you, because if it's worth the effort, it's worth sharing with the world. Squarespace puts all the power you need into your hands, takes away the things that you don't want to have to worry about, like scaling, hosting, what to do if you get stuck with something. They make sure they've got all of that taken care of. With their state-of-the-art technology, they will power your site and ensure security and stability, and they're trusted by millions of people around the world because of that. They have 24/7 support with live chat and emails. If you get stuck with something, they have people on hand to help. They have beautiful templates that feature responsive design. They're really great to customize, and they all look fantastic. They have rock-solid fast hosting, a commerce platform to sell physical and digital goods, and so much more. If you sign up for a year, you'll get a free domain name, allowing you to choose exactly what you want your site to be called. Squarespace plans start at just $8 a month, and you can sign up for a free trial with no credit card needed today by going to squarespace.com. And when you decide to sign up, don't forget the offer code WORLD, WORLD, at checkout. You'll get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for Connected and Relay FM. Thank you to Squarespace for their continued support. All right, so Federico, you've been using drafts recently
yes.
in a new way for you, and we've been meaning to talk about this for a bit, so I'll be interested to know what you're up to.
So I've been using drafts as a blogging app, as my text editor of choice for not just notes, but for articles, for stories, for reviews, and newsletters, everything that I do.
Okay.
Which is odd because, drafts is not positioned as a text editor. It's more of a, capturing tool. You open the app to jot down a note real quickly, and then you share that text with other apps, usually. It's where, I believe the tagline of drafts is, it's where text starts, or something like that. But actually...
Yeah, where text starts, that's the tagline. And that's kind of what it's become and kind of where it started, right? It was like you have something that you want to throw in, and then you put it somewhere else, and incredible for that and has really grown more and more over the years.
Yeah. And it's grown so much that at this point with iOS 9, so split view and the shortcut bar, you can do a lot of things in drafts that are not too dissimilar from what you can do in Run Writer or even editorial. And actually, it can be even a lot more than those apps because of the insane control that drafts gives you over, the creation of actions and, keyboard commands. So what I did is I wanted to see if I could use drafts to initially just to create linked posts. But I liked the experience so much that I started using it for all types of articles on Mac Stories. So I came up with a few actions that I use all the time. Those actions I pinned to the shortcut bar for easier access. And I started using drafts mostly in split view next to Safari or Tweetbot. When I'm linking to something and I want to, look at the web page at the same time. But also when I'm writing reviews, I can use drafts, next to notes. So I can look up, my first impressions of an app, or next to photos. So I can double check screenshots, or next to the app I'm writing about, so I can try the app and write on the other side. Drafts, the big problem is it doesn't use Dropbox for sync. It uses iCloud. And I come up with actions to sort of replicate having Dropbox sync. I basically just, every time I make a change to a draft, to a text file, I save the drafts to my Dropbox account. So if I want to, I can go back to Run Writer or editorial and I can make changes in Dropbox as well. It's not ideal. I wouldn't mind the feature where drafts connects to your Dropbox account, but for now it's iCloud. One thing that I really liked is the ability to do all kinds of actions and to browse community actions. So the reason why I like drafts is Greg Pierce, the developer, is super active with the app. He's constantly developing new stuff, which I like. We talked about this a few shows ago. I like apps that are actively, developed, and I like constant updates. But also there's a strong community of drafts users making actions, making scripts, making custom keys. So if you don't want to waste time, coming up with actions that you need, you can just go to the drafts website, the action directory. You can find, hundreds of examples. So that's nice. And also I've been liking the fact that it is an app built for Markdown. The way that you interact with plain text, the keyboard shortcuts, the actions, everything is built for Markdown users. You can choose between different Markdown previews, different Markdown flavors. There's a Markdown, multi-Markdown. There's another one, I don't remember the name. You can also do your own custom previews. So I did my custom Mac Stories CSS. So every time I preview an article, it looks like it would look on the website, which is nice. Despite this appreciation, Mike, I still miss editorial. And I feel like this is sort of like, I'm coming to terms with my lost love in a way.
Okay.
At first it was like, yes, I'm breaking up with you. I don't want to hear about you ever again. Then I kind of miss the app. And now I'm like, I really miss the app. I'm at the stage where drafts is great, even if it's not meant for blogging or text editing. And One Writer is great, but I miss the more advanced stuff. Like I miss in-document search. I miss Dropbox versions. I miss the ability to fold paragraphs and to rearrange them. And as I was having these thoughts, yesterday, Ole, the developer of editorial, released a new beta.
Yep.
He also talked about it on Twitter today, so I can share it. There's a new version 1.3 of editorial, finally adding iPad Pro and iOS 9 support, and it is glorious, Myke. And I've been trying the app this morning, and it's like finding an old love all over and falling in love all over again. So I don't know. I feel like iOS 9 and the lack of an editorial update caused and led me to a period of confusion, and I was like a text editor vagabond in many ways. I didn't know where to go. So I tried a lot of different things, and I managed to replicate a lot of the key workflows and things that I need to automate. But it's just, I come to that point, to the tipping point where I'm like, for this, I still need editorial. And as much as I like to fight it and to say, well, I can find alternatives, there's just that point where I'm like, there's that software that does everything I need. Now it's coming back with an update, and maybe I should just move again. My concern is that right now I'm saying, oh man, this is awesome. Editorial is coming back. I'm falling in love again. But what if, iOS 10 comes out and editorial doesn't get an update, and it gets an update 6 months later, and I find myself in this position all over again by September or by October, What if that's the case? What am I gonna do? So I don't know. I'm confused, Myke. I feel like I need your advice.
I think that at this point, as great as it is, maybe editorial is a risk if you need new features. I mean, the app never broke. It just wasn't, it wasn't updated in the way that we like. In the same way that we have been complaining about Google and stuff like that, although admittedly, right, Ole is just the one guy. But still, many applications have been updated, and I don't know the situation for him in which it took the time that it took, but it did take that time. So I think what you have here is a risk that you need to assess. And in all honesty, I think you've pretty much assessed it and have worked now with two apps. So you wrote that big piece about OneWriter, and now you've been using drafts quite a lot. And I think that what you have now is the ability to move a lot of your work to other applications when you need to.
Yes.
So if editorial is currently being worked on and you're happy with it, then I would say go to it. But always remember, the more and more complex things you build in, the worse it will be if you have to step away.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I'm not building new complex things for text editing as much as I used to. If only because I'm doing complex things in workflow now. So I don't do any Python anymore, really.
I think that's a very good thing.
The workflow team, I feel like they're committed to workflow. This is their job.
They've at least shown that so far.
And
anything can change, but right now they've really shown so far that they are committed to the development of the application.
Yeah. It's been always updated, iOS 8, iOS 9, all updates in between. So it's been a good track record so far. And so I feel like most of the automation that I do in workflow now. And in fact, to move back to editorial, I just needed to replicate like 4 actions. There's the more advanced stuff, or there's a couple of workflows that I need occasionally. But really, what I miss is a real text editing environment. Search, versions. Those are features that you don't get in a note-taking app. You know what I mean? Like it.
Yeah.
I want a real app to write and to research.
Like drafts could still play a real valuable part in your workflows when you're posting small things, or you have notes for something that you want to turn into something else. But when you want to sit down and write a really heavy article, a book, which you do now, you write books. You may.
What am I gonna do?
You maybe want to be in a app that is completely dedicated to that type of thing. Scrivener is on the horizon again.
I know.
That might be again another one to think about a little bit later down the road, if it ever does come out.
There's also Ulysses.
Yeah. What is the situation? Have they got an iPad out?
Almost.
Okay, so there's another one.
Very, very soon, Myke.
Man, it's so interesting to me that there's so many text editors, but it seems like there is a real market. People want that stuff. People write on these devices quite a lot.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with OneWriter a little bit more, and that is a great app. But I did receive a editorial beta invite today, so I will be trying it out. Editorial is another app which has incredible complexity, but I was able to build some actions with it because it, going back to earlier talking about workflow, it has the ability to help you through the process with a visual kind of layout, but that thing can get crazy. So what do you think you're gonna do? You're gonna throw caution to the wind and run back into the warm embrace of editorial?
That's probably unwise. But I only live once. Screw it, man. I mean, okay. Here's my plan. There are some actions that are my key things. So I want to be able to add footnotes to a document quickly. I want to add hyperlinks quickly. I want to preview with a preview that looks like my website. I want to publish with a workflow. All of those things, I have the same actions across editorial, across OneWriter, well, except the custom preview, and drafts. So the basic set of what I need is taken care of. It's like I'm like the CGP Grey of text editor here. I have 3 different apps with the same set of actions. So, it's like a redundant automation. Something goes wrong, I can move to the other app. If I move to tutorial now, I can take advantage of some of the advanced features that I used to miss, like search or some more complex workflows, but I only run those, maybe a couple of times a month. So I think I'm gonna try to see what happens if I fall back in love with editorial. But if anything goes wrong, I'm young enough to, be curious and move back. I'm not like an old man. I'm not like a 70-year-old man. They take away his typewriter and he's all cranky and he's gonna stop working. I'm young and I can move back. I can try things, whatever. Yes, Myke, I'm gonna move back. I've just decided right now.
Oh wow! Look at that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst that could happen to me? Worst case scenario, we do another show, but that's not bad news. That's more content, Myke.
we love the content.
You like content?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. But so going back to drafts a little bit, let's give drafts a little bit more.
It's amazing. No. It's not that I'm hating on drafts.
No, I know. But so like originally we were really just going to talk about drafts, but now editorial's thrown a big Python spanner into the works.
Yes. I really feel like Greg is one of the top developers for plain text and note-taking on iOS.
Yeah.
Drafts is seriously amazing. I mean, the amount of control that it gives you with the variables, the actions that you can make, you can mix and match traditional steps in actions or JavaScript. So you can write your own code and interact with the drafts. And I do that for some actions. and it's super handy. iCloud Sync works well enough, across the iPhone and iPad. You can integrate with web services. There's Safari View Controller if you want to have a web browser inside of Drafts, which is great. And really, the strongest point in favor of Drafts, I would say, is the constant support. So if you're on the beta track on TestFlight, there's a beta every other day, basically. And Greg is always working on Drafts. It's what he does. He works on Drafts and other apps for iOS. It's his job. So,
I mean, again, let's compare it to editorial again. If there is a new feature, Greg puts it in.
Yes.
Right? Like, it is in, and it's in quick.
Yes.
That's a big difference. Like, this is an application that you can bank is going to get updated.
Yep.
Right?
iOS does a split view, while Greg is going to have split view.
Yeah.
You can count on it.
And it's not just that either. Like, it's like, okay, I want to build a JavaScript engine inside of this thing.
Yep.
So it just does it, right? Like,
yeah.
This is an application that is incredible. And, look at things like Apple Watch, right? Like, he finds a way to make something interesting there.
Yeah. Widgets.
Yeah.
Or, the keyboard on the iPad, you can customize the shortcut bar. 3D touch. I mean, it does everything. As soon as iOS changes, Greg is on it, So that's a big point for Drafts. And I would say that if you don't do any long form editing, if you don't need to do any project based organization of a book or of a large essay, I would strongly suggest Drafts. It works really, really great. I've been keeping an eye, Myke, on IA Writer.
Yep.
So these guys, they don't have a lot of nerd cred in the iOS community. And I think it's because of a patent thing they did a couple of years ago.
Not only that, they had like a massive update, and the app was kind of weird and super expensive, and it was broken. Like, it was,
I don't remember what happened, because at one point there was like both IA Writer and Writer Pro.
Yeah.
But now there's no more Writer Pro. It's very. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I remember there was a big to do about something they were up to. Yeah. Anyway, I believe they tried to trademark something, or they tried to file a patent for like a text syntax feature. I don't know. Anyway, if you discard the drama here, IA Writer is a really solid text editor, Myke. It's got a lot of options, a lot of writing tools. My only complaint for now is that it doesn't have a shortcut bar, with customizable keys. So I cannot use it for multitasking, because you cannot show the shortcut bar. You can show the shortcut bar in multitasking. You cannot show custom keyboard rows in multitasking. So it's solid, but not yet for me.
So IA Writer tried to patent syntax control.
Yeah.
There's a big article on the Verge forums about this, which I'm gonna put in the show notes. It's got lots of tweets and such if you want to read it. But yeah, they were threatening people that wrote other iOS writing apps.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
And they lost a lot of goodwill, I feel like.
I feel like that's a real good way to lose goodwill, yeah. It's just so you know, as well, I'm patenting podcasts and I'm going after NPR. Just so you know, that's my current.
No, it's even worse when you threaten to go after the small guys, the small companies, the indie folks, and the iOS developer community is so every member is so close to each other, and many of these competitors, they know each other, they get together at WWDC. So when you come in and you're like, I'm gonna go after you, and it's kind of
it's
a bad
very competitive, collaborative environment.
Yeah,
right. They compete but help each other.
Yes.
Which is one of the great things. I love that extends to our world of podcasting as well.
Yes.
But yeah, you don't want to start throwing your weight around.
No.
On that, I don't think.
No.
So yeah, they have a decent app. I know quite a few people that use it and really like it, but it depends if you want to look past that sort of stuff. It's up to you if you want to.
Yeah. So Myke, what's the takeaway here? There's an editorial beta, and I'm trying to move back because I miss the tutorial. But drafts is also great. Still on my home screen. I recommend the app.
I think the big takeaway is this is a environment that is prime.
Yes.
For update innovation. It's a real great. What's the term? The design playground term, right?
Yes.
I think was it John Gruber coined that about Twitter.
Yes.
And it seems like that is still the case for text editors on iOS and note-taking applications.
Yeah, because iPhones and iPads are great for note-taking, great for long-form writing, and with multitasking, there's even more to consider. If you're a developer, you want to make one of these types of apps. There's a lot of features you can implement. It's the kind of platform that for writing it has serious potential, and I believe that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of apps getting updates or new apps. Like I said, Ulysses is also coming. Look for a review on Mac Stories real soon. It's a good time. It's a good time to love Markdown and plain text, Myke.
On that, if you want to find our show notes this week, head on over to relay.fm/connect/81. Thanks again to Casper and Squarespace for supporting this week's episode. If you want to find Federico online, he is at Viticci on Twitter, Viticci, and he writes over at macstories.net. I am at iMyke, IMYKE, and of course, don't forget Mr. Stephen Hackett, who's somewhere in the world right now. He's at ISMH on Twitter, and he writes over at 512pixels.net. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, hopefully as a full crew. Until then, say goodbye, Federico.
Arrivederci.